Now, here's George Roberts.
Joining me now is John Brown. John was a traffic anchor for Shadow Traffic in Philadelphia. John is also living here now in the Poconos. Great to have you with us today, John.
I'm glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about your career so people have an idea what you did in Philadelphia.
Well, I was a traffic reporter in Philadelphia for 33 years. Been in the business 44 years. The other years were as a DJ.
Okay.
But in Philadelphia, I was a traffic reporter for 33 years. I started in 1979.
Wow.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
You also were a disc jockey at different radio stations?
I was a disc jockey at WBCB in Levittown twice, WBUX in Doylestown once, WHWH in Princeton, WPST in Trenton. I mean, just like everybody else in the business, you're in 10,000 stations before you really get settled in. And WIOQ in Philadelphia, which is the big one for me.
Yeah. Now, of course, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so you wrote a book called Why Not? And I got really interested in reading this book because, of course, it brought back a lot of memories for me about being in the Philadelphia area, but also being in broadcasting, and it's a great read. And let's talk a little bit about the book. Why did you write this book?
When I used to do, and you know this, when I used to do personal appearances, remote broadcasts, religiously, parents would come up to me and they would say, "Can I ask you a question?" And I know exactly what they were going to ask because it happened so many times. And I would say, "Yeah, sure." And they would ask me, what's your disability?
Right.
And I would say to them, cerebral palsy. And they say, "We have a son or we have a daughter. Can you talk to us about it?" And I would say, "Look, give me a second to finish up here. We'll sit down and we'll talk." And that's how it all started.
You know, the title of your book is interesting, Why Not? And you could tell us why you titled it this. I read it in your book.
Well, when I was a kid, everybody would say, and all kids get this, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Me, I wanted to pitch for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Right.
Or be a Marine Corps jet fighter pilot.
Sure.
And they said, "You can't do that." And I'd say, "Why not?"
Right.
And they would come up with the stupid answer to that.
So you were born with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you were different?
When I had to wear braces.
Going back to what age? You remember an age that?
When I was growing up, my memories of being in the hospital, St. Christopher's Hospital, with surgery on the legs and everything. So, but maybe when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I started wearing braces from the knee down on both legs, and then they progressed from the waist down. I mean, heavy brace. I sounded like a tank when I would walk.
Sure.
So that's when I really noticed that I was different from everybody else.
Right, and that led to some problems, I guess in school. And
Well,
things,
yeah,
right,
because
kids.
I went to a special needs school, Widener Memorial School. It's for disabled children.
So everybody there was disabled.
Yeah, so it was. Hey, we were all the same. It was no big deal.
Right.
I didn't want that.
Okay.
All my friends were going to a Catholic school, and that's what I wanted to go. I wanted to go with them. So I told my parents that I wanted to go to St. Francis of Assisi in Germantown. And my parents met with the school teachers, who met with the nuns, and everybody was saying, "Nah, not a good thing." And I said, I want to go. So they decided, okay, well, let them try it. And I remember going to school and walking into class and hearing my braces going clank, clank, clank. Everybody turned around and looked at me. I had to unlock them to sit down and made all kinds of noise. That's where it started. And the one time we were out in recess, out in the schoolyard, and I can't run around. I'm just standing there. And the kids are running around. This kid ran into me and bounced off like a pimple ball off a brick wall. And he started crying. Everybody said it was my fault. I was just standing there.
Right.
So I had to stand over to the side and get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then there were those kids that would call you names. And they would come up and pinch you, stuff like that. And that's what really, it drove me to really accomplish. And also, once I got out of the braces, I learned how to fight.
Now, your friends you had, though, they didn't even talk about your disabilities.
No, none. My very first friend, a guy by the name of Tom McGinley, on Seymour Street in Germantown. We never even talked about it.
So when did you get the idea that you wanted to get into broadcasting?
When I was in Shriners Hospital. I was in Shriners Hospital for a problem with my left leg. I ended up being diagnosed with something called Perthes disease, which is the degeneration of the joint, the ball and socket. So I had to get put in a cast. But they had a radio station, an in-house closed circuit radio station at the hospital. So all the kids would go there, and we'd go on the air and talk in the microphone, play the records. The Philadelphia Inquirer came out and took pictures. It was so cool. I mean, it was really cool. Right. So that's where it started, I think.
And then from there, you progressed. You had to, go to schooling and things like that to learn more about broadcasting. Right. Correct. So you got this bright idea to go to California.
Well, yeah, the school called Career Academy, and I went. The representative came to the house. I had to read a commercial test, see if I could read.
Wow.
And they finally accepted me, and they said, "Why don't you take a trip to the New York school, our offices and everything?" So we got on the train, went up to New York. I loved it. But I also found out that they had a school in Hollywood. Hollywood. Are you kidding me? I said to my parents, I want to go to the school in Hollywood. And my mom, no. I said, come on, the Beach Boys are out there. Because I'm a big Beach Boys fan. So they finally, they said okay, and was the best decision of my life.
Really?
To get away from everything and everybody, go out on my own at 17, and experience all kinds of stuff in California at that time. And I came back, and I had an interview at WBCB.
It's in Levittown.
In Levittown, and the program director there said, well, go back into the newsroom. He gave me some copy and some commercials, and he said, put together a 5-minute newscast for me. Okay, so I went in there and put together a 5-minute newscast, and he listened to it, and he came back to me and he said, he says, you're pretty good, but you're still a little rough around the edges. I think you need a little more experience. Well, being disappointed like that is just terrible, because it was a hometown radio station, rejection, I was, Anyway, I came home and told my mom, and she said, why don't you go to college and learn it? Bucks County Community College was available. I checked it out. They had a radio station. So I applied, they accepted, and went in there, and I started working at TYL, the college radio station, and
you met a lot of people there too, and that I think helped.
Absolutely.
Because networking is big in this business.
Absolutely.
The more people you know, the further you can get, I guess. Right?
Matter of fact, a guy by the name of Rich Scott, who was the general manager of the radio station, the college radio station, when he left, he got a job at WBUX in Doylestown, and boom, that's how I got into WBUX in Doylestown. Got to meet Perry Como, which was like, whoa, are you kidding me? The station was for sale. He was one of a group that was interested in buying the station. He was driving up with his friends, and I played a Perry Como record. I didn't know he was coming. He came in, he said, thank you for playing my music, and shook hands, and he signed the album. How does that happen? It's just great stuff.
John, let's talk a little bit about your career in radio. How long did that last before you started doing traffic reports?
I was a DJ for about 10 years.
Okay.
We call it 69 to 79. Okay. And 79, I started doing traffic for Shadow Traffic in Philadelphia.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because that's interesting. You are giving traffic information over the radio, and of course people are in their cars, they really need that information. That was the only way to get traffic information at that time. But how did you even go about collecting the information to be able to put a report together?
Way different than it is today, let me tell you. Back then we had mobile units.
Such as vehicles?
Yeah,
and
we had
a plane, did you, or a helicopter?
Yeah, when I first started, they were Broncos. Those big, bulky Ford Broncos. We had 4, and each had an assigned route, and it was on 2-way radio. Then we had 2 fixed wing and one chopper. And the chopper was the old two-seater bubble. Looks like a bug flying in the air,
Sure.
kind of thing. And that was it. They would radio into our center. We had producers there that would put all the information together, and they would relay it to me. Now, when we first started, I had a plastic map with
Like markers or
markers,
something?
yeah, red and green markers. It was jammed, it was red. It was green, or not fine, it was green. And you would make your notes, and that's how you would do your traffic report. And you would call the radio station on the phone. We didn't have microphones hooked up, it was just phone.
In your book, there's plenty of pictures that describe and show all these things that you talk about. One thing I have a question about is how you met your wife, Donna.
She was a township reporter for WBCB. She would come in and she would go to what Falls Township, the different townships, cover the township meetings, come back, write the stories, and hand them to me to read. And that's how we met.
Being in a market like Philadelphia and Chicago, was there always the feeling that, you could be let go at any time and you'd be fired? And
I was only fired once, and that was at the radio station that the program director's friend needed a job.
Okay.
So that was the one out.
Okay.
So I realized then, no matter how good you are, or no matter how good you think you are, you're always expendable.
Did you always feel like, I might be coming back and telling Donna that I lost my job today?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah.
In the early days, a couple of the checks bounced too, remember?
Wow.
Yeah. They used to, when the early days of Shadow, it was a poor company.
Yeah.
We would get our checks and run to the bank.
I think people would be really surprised about a lot of companies when they find out how they
Yeah.
really were run,
Yeah.
especially in the early times.
There was a time when we were thrown out a couple of our places because we didn't pay the rent. We ended up doing traffic out of trailers next to a factory in their parking lot. Yeah, it was tough, but it was fun.
You have cerebral palsy. You've had a lot of surgeries. You had surgeries when you were a kid. They help though, right? Some of those.
Yeah. I mean, the last surgery when I was a kid were on both my legs, up along the side of the hips here, and I was in a cast from the waist down both sides with a bar in between. So when you stood me up, I looked like a giant A. Okay, and I had to be flipped every couple of hours. The nuns from St. Francis would come down to the house, like 4 of them, help my mom clean the house, cook, and then flip me all day until they went back at night. And that was for like, I don't know, 2 months or something like that.
And then that lasted for a while. Like you didn't have to have another surgery until you got older.
I had a disc. I was driving to the studio on the Schuylkill Expressway. The disc burst, and the debris from the disc blocked the spinal canal.
That's amazing.
And the pain was unbelievable. But what happened was I lost the use of my left leg. I couldn't feel it, couldn't step on it. So I called the studio and I said, look, I got some problems, I can't come in. Called Donna up, I said, meet me at the house and we'll go to the hospital. She met me at the house. I had to drive to the emergency room because I couldn't get out of the car.
Right.
So we finally got to the emergency room. They brought out a wheelchair, got me into the wheelchair, took me in, and the pain was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then I had emergency surgery.
Sure. Well, what's interesting in your book is you allow Donna to explain her side of that whole situation.
Yeah.
And her, version of what she went through while you were going through that.
Which was worse than what I went through. Yeah. The surgery took way longer than they expected. It was supposed to be a 2-hour, hour and a half surgery. Went 4 hours because the arthritis in my back was so bad that they had to get a special equipment to clean off the bones and everything, separate the nerves because of the years of injections of steroids. The nerves were all coated with gunk and stuff, so they had to do all that kind of stuff. Sure. So they told me I'd probably not get full use of my left leg back, and they were right.
And how do you feel now at this point in your life? You're retired. You're here in the Poconos. What are we doing these days?
I'm sleeping past 4:30 in the morning is what I'm sleeping. I'm relaxing. Yeah, I love it here. I mean, I've always loved the Poconos, always. And you can get a good cheesesteak here, by the way. You can get a good cheesesteak here in the Poconos.
I'm JohnBrown in the afternoon. I'll try to get you home from work real soon. When there's a traffic problem, I show you that I care by telling you to use some caution there. We are the shadow traffic team. We do the traffic so you won't scream.
I'm here with John Brown. Of course, John, traffic anchor for Shadow Traffic in Philadelphia.
Right.
You did that for many, many years.
And meteorologist, too.
Oh, and a meteorologist. That's
Yeah,
right. I forgot
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
You did get that in there, too.
Mississippi State University. Yep.
It's all here in the book. Why not? And John, I think it's fascinating about you growing up with cerebral palsy and your broadcasting career and things like that. But throughout the book, there's a lot of things you talk about. One thing is you mention God a lot in here, and you seem to have gone through a lot of different phases with God.
My relationship with God is based on my growing up Catholic in the old Catholic school. Although I'm not a practicing Catholic, I am a Christian.
You seem to question him a lot, though.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I still do. When I was growing up, I would say, why did you make me like this?
You wonder what the purpose is to all
Yeah,
that.
I could never, no one could ever explain to me what the purpose was of why I was the way I am. I think when my mom died, a month before we got married, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that really got me, because me and my mom had a relationship because of the cerebral palsy.
Oh, yeah.
She would push me, push education, push physical therapy. She said, don't be afraid to try something.
But no matter what the doctor said to you, too, that she was always on your side,
Yes.
that you were going to be able to walk,
Yes.
you were going to be able
Yes.
to do things.
She didn't buy that. Oh, I don't think your son's going to walk stuff. She said, and she was right. She got me into St. Christopher's Hospital, and surgery after surgery after surgery, and eventually I got up and I walked and I ran just like everybody else. Maybe a little bit differently, but I mean, I still got out there and did stuff. But when my mom died 30 days before I was going to be married, I just lost it. I just said, there's no God. And what am I praying to? I'm praying to the wind.
So what brought you back around?
A dream.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. It was a dream about your mom. Yeah. But that sort of calmed you down
Yeah.
after having that dream.
Yeah.
John, let's talk about the surgeries. I read about so many surgeries in here that I wonder how much can one person take?
You just do it. I mean, when you're young, you really don't have a choice.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
parents say, you're going to have this surgery. The doctor's going to say, you're having this surgery. And you say, at 6 years old, what am I? No, I'm not. No, it doesn't work that way. So, I had heel cord lengthening surgeries. I had surgeries I don't even remember. But I have enough scars on my legs, if you put them end to end, I could walk from Blaisley to Mount Pocono on the scars. Okay? That's how many scars I have on me.
It seemed in your book, too, there were a lot of times when you were thinking you were going to get laid off, let go, or whatever, because of your disability.
I always felt that I had to do it better than everybody else. That meant working harder than anyone else, staying longer than anybody else, volunteering for stuff that nobody would volunteer for. I always had to feel that I had to prove myself more than anyone else because of my disability.
It almost
and that sucks.
It almost comes across, though, as paranoia.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially after you get fired when you know you were doing a good job.
Very happy with what you did over the years?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I got to fly in, I don't know, 3 or 4 different blimps, different helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, jets. I was in a jet fighter, flew in a jet fighter, which was great. I did traffic reports for Monday Night Football. It was a good career. I mean, I retired at 62. I was ready.
Book that you've written called Why Not, and the book is a great read, and I encourage people to get it. I understand proceeds from the book are being sent to Somebody named Leone and
Yeah.
Vicky. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I was just going through Twitter, and I saw this video of this little girl who was about 6 years old, and I was reading the caption, and she was born with quadriplegia, which is basically the worst type of CP. And she was on her back, and she was using her head just to move, to get across. And she had to have surgery. And her mom started a funding site where Team Leone, you donate so they can get the money to do surgery. Well, I like that, and the smile on this kid is incredible, just incredible. And it reminded me a lot about me, because you could see how determined she was to get, even if she had to do it on her back, she would get there. Okay. And so all the royalties from the book go to Team Leone. I mean, everything.
John, explain the award you received for this book.
It's the International Impact Book Award in the memoir category. And there were 89 other entries in that particular category. So that was pretty impressive, and it was like, whoa, great.
And how do people get a copy of this book? Where do they
Anywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere they sell books online, basically you can get it. It's at the Books in the Library of Congress.
Great.
Which is kind of neat.
I enjoyed it. It was a great read, and enjoyed having you with us today, John.
It was a blast. I enjoyed it too.
A big honor to meet you, and thank you for being on the program.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, John.
Thank you, Georgie.